This is Atlas Thugged. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now. It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, dude. Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race.
40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around in their surroundings, let alone this blatant.
A trans woman's penis make you gay?
Can I define to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age.
I'm not a misogynist, I'm a sexist.
Right, like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth.
But she's straight up, she's like, stock market. She's like, bro, like, I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
And probably doesn't help that half the comments are, how are you not banned on YouTube? Man, how is this guy? How's this guy not banned on YouTube? It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things. And they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that,
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone on this planet must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
and I said this maybe about a year ago, what if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. He's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? It's like that's that's what you're competing up against. Because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right Wolf's husband? What am I listening to? Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics, stuff like that.
Oh, no, statistics. Not we don't do statistics.
Thank you once again. Hello and welcome into Offensively Accurate. I'm your host, Atlas Thugged, and joined with a very excited guest I have been waiting to have for a while. One of the original OG America Firsters, Groypers, Mr. Tyler Russell. Thank you for joining us. What a great moment to have in time. I think, and let me just start with this. I think a lot of people don't understand the amount of effort and labor and push there has been for years leading up to the moment that we got today. Well, I say the movement about a couple months ago. And so what I'm curious about too is tell me how you got from Canada First, where you got the inspiration from. How did this all start and how did it develop? I'm very curious to know.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I was just talking to you in the pre-show lobby here, and
yeah,
I've been following you for, a month or so now, and your content's awesome. So it's nice to be on YouTube again, too. It's kind of fun to be back on YouTube. Nice little change of pace. So thank you for having me. And yeah, I got involved. I started watching America First back in like 2018, very early 2019. And I was involved in politics in Canada. I was just kind of getting red pilled. I went through my libertarian phase. And, when I found AF, I knew that this was the truth. I knew that something was happening with this movement. Groyper War ended up happening like very shortly after I became a YouTube live chatter when Nick was back on YouTube.
Right.
So ever since then, I just kind of said I was going to go for it. And I wasn't always really that interested in politics. I grew up in a very musical family. I played hockey growing up. I could have cared less about politics.
Yeah.
But I just started to see the world change around me, especially growing up in Canada. And, I would kind of start to observe these different patterns that are going on. And it just hits you. I was living in Toronto for a while, and I saw rapid demographic change. I saw this system that was completely broken. And, when I think about my future family, when I think about the future of our people, it's like, yeah, I just want to play my role in that, really.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how deeply you wanted me to get into it, because there's a lot of lore here. There's the Canada First stuff. There's the past 3 years with America First. There's the political journey and the cancellations and everything. So that was kind of the very beginning. I was a libertarian, and I just saw the rapid change going on. And I just kind of went for it. I said, enough's enough.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of the solution. And, those early years of AF were a huge inspiration for that and kind of got me to where I am now.
Well, I guess, one of my first questions would be, so for me, it took until October 2023, October 7th, for a lot of this stuff to really begin to unravel for me, because it was so in my face.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, this happened 2018, 2017, if I'm correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And you had mentioned then, these patterns that you couldn't ignore anymore. What were some of those patterns? What was that moment to you in 2018 that was like, okay, something's up?
The major one was demographic change.
Okay.
I was living in Toronto, and I was going to school there. And, it was a diverse city when I moved there. And, Canada was already kind of diverse getting into the 2010s. There was a lot of immigration and stuff like that. But in the course of 4 or 5 years there where I was living in Toronto, it wasn't just diversity. It was like India. And it was, Canada was bringing in over 1 million. It was 1.2 to 1.4 million migrants per year. And they're all going to Toronto. So, I experienced that demographic change at a rapid pace that a lot of other people didn't. And it was literally over the course of a couple of years where, oh yeah, now the streets, there was some homeless before. It's like a normal big city. But now it's you can't walk on the sidewalk because of the homeless people. Now it's oh, if you're going to go down this one street that you need to walk down to get to class, you might get stabbed because there's this major homeless encampment. And you can't take public transit because all the migrants are on it and they're causing a ruckus. And, there's actually kind of a funny trend that's going on right now talking about this exact problem. They just realized it way too late. But if you go on TikTok, there's been a bunch of these like liberal Canadian girls on TikTok talking about how they can't go out to the club anymore and they can't take public transit because people aren't assimilating. So it really was that was my first like big red pill, was seeing that demographic change and experiencing it every single day.
Yeah.
And, I feel like a lot of the conservatives, especially in America, even up north too, though, even across the pond in Europe, a lot of them are maybe from smaller towns or maybe smaller cities, whatever it may be, the suburbs, and they don't see it firsthand. They don't have that real life experience with it.
Right.
And I feel like that kind of breeds this complacency that you see within MAGA right now, where it's like they are accepting of all of the migrants. They are accepting of the H-1Bs. They see it as an economic bonus, rather than what it actually is, which is completely changing the makeup of your nation and culture. So, that was the big initial red pill for me. I was just like, we can't live like this. I want the country that I grew up in back, or I want the West to be like that. I don't want my people to have to go through this in the future. So that was my big thing.
And I guess the next question would be, and I kind of wrestle with this too. Do you think if the people who were coming here in mass actually even halfway attempted to try to be Americans, or would that, or even attempt to assimilate, into Canada, would that have made a difference? Because that's kind of like the crux of where the issue boils down to. A lot of people kind of stop at the assimilation aspect and they go, if they just acted more like Americans, we would be okay with it. But then some people are like, no, that's like, we're just incompatible in general. There's no amount of trying to be American that could happen fast enough that we would be able to be cohesive. And so I'm curious, if had there been more of an assimilative effort by the people coming in, would you be in a different place right now?
I'm in the I don't think that's possible camp.
Okay.
People are very different. I believe in race. I believe that people are different. Their mindsets are different. IQs are different.
Yep.
Cultures are obviously vastly different. So yeah, I'm in the I don't think that really matters camp. And that's not to say that I'm like some of these wignats out here that you take it to the extreme, like the blood tribe people.
Right.
When I'm talking about this subject on my stream, I always say I'm actually like one of the more liberal people like around in like the Groiper spaces.
Right.
And I get a lot of heat from my chat because I'm like, you know what? I do actually kind of like Chinatown because I like it. Like I like that area. I do kind of like going to like Pilsen in Chicago because they got good burritos and it's kind of fun. And so
right.
The main thing is a super majority. And I would classify that as like 90%. The country needs to be 90% white, 90% old stock, for these things to be acceptable.
Yeah.
Again, I'm in the camp where it's like, I'm not trying to kick out every brown person and TND and whatever. I think that's a total LARP, and I think it's super silly.
I agree.
Completely, it's never going to happen. But I think that we can achieve a super majority, and kind of find ourselves again. And just as the show title and the movement's name is, put America first.
Right.
And on the race subject too, it's like I feel as if, and maybe you've seen this as well, I feel like a lot of people are waking up to this.
Oh yeah.
I think that a lot of people are recognizing that it's not just culture, that there are these intrinsic differences that are built in to different people, and not all of them are bad. Asians are different, Jewish people are different, white people are different, Middle Eastern people are different, Africans are different, and there's pros and cons to this. I think it's extremely important that the West and America in specific kind of gets back to its roots, embraces themselves, puts themselves first, Because yeah, I don't want America to become like Toronto. I don't want it to become
Right.
little India. I want it to be America. So
And I
it
agree
has to
with
be
that.
for European stock supermajority. But I do like a good burrito. I do like a good.
No, I get it.
I like
I
my
get it.
Mexican food.
Well, then so here's, because this is one thing that I deal with the Discord all the time, which is I get people in here who they go straight to Fed posting, and it's the most cringe stuff I've ever seen in my life. And like you, I also hold a pretty, stringent, strong, race realistic position. And I guess the 90% supermajority, some people may still consider that like a white ethno state. It's ultimately like not 100% alignment, but it's like, it's damn near close enough. And so I'm curious then, what is your kind of pushback to the Wignat who wants to put race over Christianity or race over every other value? What's your kind of common pushback, and how do you pull somebody back down from that ledge?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I do think that it's very difficult to pull somebody back that is acting in that way. I think that at that point, they've overdosed on the red pills, so to speak, and they're very black pilled, and they're very determined to espouse those kinds of blood tribe ideas. And I understand why. Like when I first got started and I was first doing my streams and trying to make a name for myself and stuff like that, I was a lot angrier than I am now. And I feel like people kind of go through that phase, and it's up to them to get out of it. There's nothing that we can really say or do besides lead by example and show people that there is still a solution. We still can make this work politically.
Right.
But some people just kind of go down that path, and I totally get it. I understand why. For a lot of people, they are, not to, say the obvious trope or anything, but for a lot of people, they are stuck in a basement, and they did get a really shitty hand in life, and they've had no help.
Right.
They can't find a good job, and they can't buy a house, and the dating pool is like hell right now. There's a lot of things to be blackpilled about. What I try to say on my stream is, I say you gotta battle through it. You gotta put yourself out there. I tell my chatters, I'm like, okay, it's the weekend. I'm going to the patio. You guys go touch grass. Just do something to put yourself in the world and see humanity. And this doesn't mean that you have to ignore all the bad things. I tend to hyper focus on the bad things, but it does give you this new perspective that online isn't real.
Yeah.
And there is a real world that is happening. It's going on all around you. And I think it's part of our job as whether, political commentators, activists, whatever you want to call it, to participate in that world, to affect the change that we want to see.
Right.
So I totally understand how people can get to that mindset, that really bad, again, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but like incel-y basements mindset, and take that to this next level, getting into the blood tribe stuff, the Wignat stuff.
Right.
I can totally see that pathway. I think it's up to us to, make sure that make sure that you are still trying in life and trying to better yourself and make the most of this life that you were given. Because one day it's going to be 40 years in the future, and you're going to have nothing going for you. You're going to have no motion.
Right.
And that's not good. You got to get some motion. So,
right.
That's something that I say to my chat all the time. I'm like, things are terrible right now, but we got a plan. We got a plan. It's a long-term plan. We're all working on bettering ourselves. We all know what's up. We're spreading the good message.
Yeah.
And, don't lose yourself like some of these other people on twitter.com do.
Exactly. And, there's two kind of big things that you had mentioned there. The one is the big one, which is, I think for most people, they need to have the understanding that X is kind of it's becoming an echo chamber of a sorts. It's the most free platform, but ultimately it still is a bit echo-y in terms of who the people are. And a lot of people have kind of left and went to Blue Sky and Threads and elsewhere. But secondly, to your point about incels and the Wignats, is like, that's the worst part, is I totally understand where they're coming from. It's like I completely relate to it. It's like I'm right there with you. But especially with the incel stuff, for me, it's more so like some of these guys just accept it. They just like, well, I'm an incel. I'll never try again. And it's like, like at least you want to try. You can at least acknowledge, okay, here I am in this spot, but you want to at least climb out of that, that cave that you're in. And I see a lot of these guys, like I went on, and not to bash them at all, but I went on Raymond Thoughts and Mind show, a few days ago. And he's kind of full and accepted this. He's like, I'm never going to find a girl. I think all women hate me. But at the same time, I'm looking at this guy conversationally. And as a former personal trainer, I'm going, you can do this better. You could do this. You could do this. You haven't even tried doing this. And so I kind of sit there and it's like, at a certain point, I get the whole circumstance thing, right? Financially, no home, not to mention just the exploitation of the female mind at large. But at the end of the day, it's like, what else do you have? Are you going to accept and be an incel the rest of your life? It's like, that's miserable. And then what you had said, you'll be 62 years old, no emotion, and also no family to take care of you. And no one's going to give a fuck about you at that point. Like you're just going to die. And I think that's one of the sad parts. But not to get too far.
Is,
oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt there. I just want to add on something there. That's like the main thing for me. For me, it's not really even about like, when people think of incel, they think of like a girl situation or like a dating situation. And for me, it's not really about the girl thing. For me, it's about, I want guys to like have a purpose. I look back on a lot of like my high school friends or people that I knew in high school, and you check up on them on Instagram or something, and they're like working at like a grocery store or they're working at, just like minimum wage jobs still. They're in their late 20s. They got no motion. And that's the main thing that I think that people need to really get out of. Right now, it's like the dating pool is insane. Yeah. And, I think that like the incel community, I don't even like really like using that term because I think it's so broad. It's like there's different types now, I feel like. And it's too broad of a term, but I don't really know any other term to use that describes the type of person. I think that they shouldn't even think about girls right now. You got to get motion. You got to work on yourself. I want, my chatters. I want my guys. I want groypers to really build themselves up and put themselves, in a position to, in the future, maybe when things become a little less volatile, then have a family, then settle down, that kind of thing. But the main thing, what's going to bring you happiness, I think, is being a part of your community and doing something that you love, gaining a purpose. And, there's a lot of great work that can be done online. My screen time is crazy. I work online. I'm a streamer. I'm an activist, whatever. There's a lot of fantastic things that can be done online, but I really do think that people got to put themselves out in the world, start rising the ranks, get some money, get some motion, get some cool friends to hang out with on Saturdays or whatever, and really just get their minds right. And then the girl thing can come later. That's main focus is the mish.
Yeah.
Your mission.
Exactly. And this is kind of how I highlight it too, because I believe the same thing too, where I'm like, you look at all these old references to like, whether it's old Hollywood or any kind of reference where a man sacrificed a lot. And the majority of the time it's because he did it for his family. He was living for something greater than himself. And if we end up getting the majority of our crew, and the growth movement, it's a bunch of men who aren't living for something greater than themselves, you're ultimately going to fall flat on its face. And you're not going to have any kind of generational imprint either. And I do think that's ultimately important, but I didn't want to go too far into the incel stuff because I wanted to know, and you kind of tell me, because you went through this, what are the important bits, what were the important events that really kind of brought you from 2018 to today? Whether it was like the big bands, and I talked to some guys earlier today, I look you up. First thing I see is this massive, like 40-page article from Canada Hate Watch about you. And so I'm like going through it and I'm like, oh man, don't talk about this. Don't talk about this. And so I'm curious, you tell me, man, what was this journey like?
Yeah, it was, I still like to remind myself that the journey is ongoing. We're still on this grand adventure kind of thing.
Yeah.
but so it's been awesome. And, I sometimes look back and with my knowledge now, just kind of how to operate online and how to network and how to communicate better. I would have done some things different when I first started, but I was like raw. I was just like a 21, 22-year-old who like got red pill. I'm like, I got to do something.
Right.
So I just kind of threw myself into it, and everything that I've done, it has been like a learning experience, or I've learned something from it. I've got something from it. I've gotten good political experience from it.
Yeah.
And the main big moment that happened, it was like right on the verge of COVID and BLM. My first show ever, when my stream was the Russell Report on D Live, which is like insane to say D Live.
I know, right?
That was like COVID era. And at the time, we all thought like the we're getting the vaccine passports. It's over. Like,
Yeah.
Communism is here. And then a few short months after was BLM, and the BLM stuff is that's what really, sent me. Because there was virtually zero opposition of it in Canada. Even the conservative groups, they were all buying into it. There's no true right wing there. So
That's wild.
that was pretty infuriating. I'm posting stuff online about like you got to lock these people up. This is insane. This isn't even like a real event that had like we all know the George Floyd story. He's on fentanyl. Like, what is going on? How are people just believing this? It's a very turbulent time.
Yeah.
And, that led to a whole bunch of different things. The petition that you brought up, people wanting to get me canceled.
Yeah, that was a bunch of kids at your school, right? At university with you?
Yeah. Nothing ever happened because it's just total bullshit.
Yeah, right.
And like what? Because I oppose BLM, like that would be a crazy precedent to set. If you like oppose BLM, now you can't go to school. Like that's just retarded. So, but yeah, people like were like losing their minds, even in America, all across the world, they were losing their minds.
Right.
Very turbulent time. And when I saw people push back on what I knew was the truth, I'm like, I just doubled down. I'm just like, okay, I'm right here. Like, you guys can't tell me what to do. I am right. Like, I understand reality. I know what I am observing.
Yeah.
I am correct. And that just caused me to double down. I'm like, I'm going to take the streaming thing very seriously, and I'm just going to do it. And, one day in the future, if it doesn't work out, I'll figure out something else. But I think it's extremely important, especially at that time during the COVID era when there were so many lies going around and the government was really trying to screw us over. I thought that it was really important to not give into the system and be a little bit rebellious.
Yeah.
So that was like the main kind of moment that really made me think like, okay, I'm dedicating myself to this.
Yeah.
And then yeah, as you mentioned, the cancellations and stuff, it's like, or the bannings, when you start to get banned, it causes this like rebellious mindset. And you're just like, oh yeah, you're going to ban me on Twitter. I'm making a new Twitter account. I'm coming back even harder. Like,
right.
So for the first 3 years or so there, it was like that. It was like the world is against you. And it was like me and the Groypers that were around me. It was like we're taking on the world and we're doing all this cool stuff and we're trying to get our foot in the door in politics. And
well, just for a second, I think that's the part that people don't get is just how against the world you guys were just a couple years ago. Like people see this stuff, debased, and it's like, it's going viral now on X, and it's like that was not the energy that was there a few years ago. I mean, like to the point that I didn't even really know who like Nick or any dude, let alone anyone beyond that, because I had bought into the overt propaganda of like, don't listen to this guy. He's a bad faith actor. He's an internet troll or whatever. So I never looked into it. But the more and more I listened to people like Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro and all these guys who are just the most fake pieces of shit on the planet.
For real, yeah.
Realized I was like, I know something is wrong, but the people I'm listening to they're not giving me the information I need to be able to articulate what the problems are. And I realized there was a disconnect there. And I can't remember, but eventually one day I was just like, I'm putting Nick on. And I listened and I never stopped. And then that's kind of brought me to where I'm at here too. So I guess then tell me then, who were some of the first people that you partnered with, to start bringing this up and collectivizing?
Yeah. So back in the day, the first people that I I wouldn't really say it was a partnership, but I was supporting Faith Goldie, if you know who that is. No, that's some like old like alt-right stuff. She worked for like Rebel News, but she was like alt-right. She was a friend of Nick's.
Right.
And that was like the first like real kind of controversial figure that I supported.
Yeah.
And then from there, when I got into like the Groyper movement, the young Groyper movement, it was really anybody who was on D-Live. So, that was like the old America First Orbiter squad, which thou shall not be named because they're trash now. The people that turned. Jimbo Zoomer was around back then. He was on D-Live. Beardly, of course.
Yeah.
So there's still a few of the OGs around. And there's even more, OGs that are behind the scenes. But there has been a very large turnover in terms of like the old 2018 alt-right kind of days, and now. And I kind of like really got in the thick of it, right smack dab in the middle. So I was at like the tail end of the alt-right, very early Groyper movement. So
Word.
There's a little bit of that stuff bleeding over, but yeah, it was really mainly like the guys from D-Live. It would be like Beardson, Jimbo.
And that's
trying
what
to think
preceded
if there
Cozy?
was. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So when Nick got banned on YouTube, he moved to D-Live, which D-Live, it's still up, but like nobody uses it anymore.
Right.
PewDiePie actually got like a big deal for them. It's some like Chinese crypto guy who made a streaming platform and wanted to popularize, and they gave PewDiePie like this contract to stream on it.
Word.
So he was streaming there for a little bit. And that's kind of where all like the alt-right guys went when they got banned off of YouTube back in the day. So we were all just kind of on D-Live, and alt-righters or Groypers, we kind of had the entire site taken over. And
That's awesome.
at all times on the front page, in the political categories, it was just like constant red pill content. Even like adjacent peoples, like people that we didn't like, they would use D-Live. That was just kind of the spot to be then.
Yeah.
And then after January 6th, that's when they nuked everybody, because it was like January 7th or 8th, I think it was. That's when like the major social media ban wave went out, when Nick got taken off of D-Live.
Yeah.
And then that's when Cozy spawned up.
And who was and don't tell me if it's if it's like not supposed to be known, but who was behind Cozy? If you know who was behind D-Live, who built Cozy?
Nick made Cozy.
Okay, I thought I had heard that, but I wasn't sure. Okay, so I'm assuming he probably put some funding behind that to get that. And is that still around?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's still up. I recently just stopped using it. A lot of people just recently stopped using it because kick.com has really been popping off, and we want to grow and get more people into the movement kind of thing. But yeah, it's still up. People still use it, and it's kind of like the fallback option. If Nick gets banned off Rumble, he's got his entire own site that's ready to go.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the plan B right there. And in the early days of Cozy, it was awesome. It was so cool because you can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Right, it's
it's not the TOS, that's going on. And there were some streamers back then in the early days where, they go to Twitch or whatever, and they'd be messing with some Twitch streamer, or they get in an argument with somebody on twitter.com.
Yeah.
And they'd go to the Cozy site, and the devs had set up like a report this streamer button, but it didn't go anywhere. So they would be report him on Cozy, but they didn't give a fuck. It's Nick, right?
That's funny.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Cozy era was fun, but it's just time to move on. You want to get eyes. That is that is the definition of an echo chamber, when you're on your own platform with all the same recurring viewers. And as not just myself, but really any other streamer on there, you want to grow. You want your stuff to be on these major platforms where people can find it and where you can spread the message. So
Right.
it's still around. It's super cool. The website runs awesome. It's like unironically one of the best streaming UIs, but
That's awesome.
yeah, it was just kind of time to move back to the main platforms now that we can.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And I guess what would you say between Kick and X then, in terms of censorship or at least freedom of belief of, you can say whatever you want? Is Kick better than X then, since I don't see you stream much on X?
I think it is. I think that Kick beats out X because with X, it's really whatever Elon says. Like,
fair.
What if Elon doesn't like something, he's banning you, he's going to shadow ban you. And like, we have proof of that. Like, that is verifiable. That's a thing.
Yeah.
So, Kick, they have a TOS, and people sometimes complain about, oh, it's not total free speech, but it's very lenient. It's like, okay, don't like spam racial slurs at somebody and tell them to like off themselves,
Right. Because you see, what is it? Johnny Somali be like beating people and doing these ridiculous pranks, and no one cares.
Yeah. Like, just don't go insane. Don't be like a total spurg and you're fine.
Yeah.
So I think that Kick is better than X for sure. I'm very worried that X coming up here under Elon, that there's going to be another big kind of censorship wave, especially as he tries to do this America Party thing, and people are going to push back on him on that.
Right.
And it's just you can feel the temper tantrum coming a mile away. So
need more Indians.
Yeah, I don't trust Elon. I don't trust X. I think it's a very important platform.
Right.
But unfortunately, you can't say whatever you want on it. And you can't even spread certain ideas. You can't even oppose H-1B visas. So, it's not as free speech as people say.
Well, and speaking of, I'm pretty sure Destiny's son got banned earlier today, or at least suspended. One.
Oh, did he actually?
Yeah.
I've been kind of offline today. I just I woke up, I did some stuff, did some work, and then went to the gym and hopped on here. So I haven't paid attention to the TL, but that's insane.
Yeah,
he's been going off though. I've been seeing him posting like the 1488 stuff, which is hilarious.
I know. Well, and the thing is I feel awful because, I look at it and I'm like, this is a kid who's basically been targeted. Well, not targeted, but the whole world makes fun of him because it's like, hey, look what your dad did. Your dad's caught on video doing this homosexual act. And I feel for him, and you hear him talk and he's got a strong lisp, and I'm sure he probably has some other developmental issues given the fact that his mom's also a whore too. And so it's just, I feel bad, and you think he does represent a lot of people who are in this movement, right? A lot of kids who basically were left behind or were ultimately in a very bad situation with parents. And then they're just kind of victim of circumstance. But the timeline's been wild. And that is one thing too. I'm kind of curious, and this is kind of a side point as well. What was it like going from being excited for Trump maybe a year ago to getting slapped in the face about the Epstein files as of like a couple months ago? What has that been like?
Yeah, for me, it's going back years where I have not been excited about Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going back to like the announcements. So 2022, I guess.
Okay.
Because I wasn't like in Mar-a-Lago, but like there was a bunch of people outside who were there for his announcement that he was going to run in 24. And that was like the first time where you're like, okay, he's lost the steam. That wasn't very cool.
Yeah.
Lots of, swamp creatures around. Not a very good start. And so this is going back years and years. And during the 24 campaign, people always say that like Nick told people to vote for Kamala, and he never did. He said not to vote. He never did that. But like, I'll admit I did. I was like full accelerationist. I'm like,
that's funny.
I'm like, okay. And I think I'm right about it too, by the way, looking back, because the idea behind it, and you're going to get all these Vance shills and these like BAP page shills by Peter Thiel. They're all going to be like, but like Trump's marginally better, deportations, whatever. But in my mind, it's like, yeah, obviously the like brown Indian Democrat that's going to mess up the country even more, that's going to unify the right wing. And when the only other option that you have in the right wing is a Teal Vance coalition, it's like, yeah, we got to shake that up.
Right.
So I was going into it with the mindset of like, yeah, you know what? Like, let Kamala, handle the next 4 years. Let her handle the Iran conflict. Let her handle Israel. Let her handle all these problems that Americans are facing.
Right.
And let's kind of reorganize the right wing. Let's get an actual nationalist faction going, that can at least have a slice of the pie heading into 2028. That
Right.
isn't Vance or Teal.
Yeah.
And I got so much shit for that during the campaign because I kind of
Sure.
took it that one step further. And like part of it is joking, like you're saying that to get a reaction, but genuinely, I really do support shaking up the entire system in any way possible right now.
Yeah.
And I'm very white pilled going into 28 with how much Nick has blown up in the past couple months, this past summer, taking on Tucker, Candace, because he is carving out that America First faction. And we
Right.
are going to have a slice of the pie heading into 28 now. And, if there's like some socialist out there that's a part of the Democratic Party that wants to shake things up and they want to, run and maybe win, I'm like unironically for that. I want to see things shaken up.
Same.
I don't want the country to burn down to the ground or anything, but I'm sick of the swamp creatures.
Same.
So yeah, I was kind of pro Kamala. Like,
I mean,
Brad
I get
Summer,
it.
let's do it.
But I was right there with you, probably all the way up until like 2 weeks before the election. I had a lot of people around me basically convince me out of it and go, let's go incrementalism, let's go ahead and just vote, like it could be a lot worse. But I learned my lesson. I think same as you, I as of right now, I probably will full send to Gavin Newsom 2028 vote if nothing changes. And I think the meme that was really good that I saw, capturing it, it said it's not about policies, it's about sending a message. And I think that is to say, if it becomes clear that even with all the momentum we've garnered right now, that the Republicans are still unwilling to play ball with what we want to see in terms of policy changes, then I think the answer is right there. It's like, we're not playing this incremental game that's non-existent anymore. It's, throw an actual wrench in the system by forcing Gavin Newsom in by, giving, 10, 15, 20%, however much you might think America First may be at this point, of that base over to Gavin Newsom just for free. He doesn't have to try. We're giving it to him anyways because you guys aren't putting up. And I think that kind of captures, at least to me, a lot of the anger that I have with the whole situation, which is you look at the current degeneracy we're going through. You look at not even just degeneracy. I mean, you look at even just like economically what they've been doing to our dollar, to like real estate value. And you look at what the revolutionary, our founding fathers did over a 3% tax on tea. And you're like, dude, we are not the same men that were there then. Now, they ultimately didn't accelerate in terms of accelerationists, right? By like making the system itself blow up. They went outside of it and were like, we'll just wage war with you. But I think because we know that collectivization in terms of strategy like that is non-existent. I mean, we're going to get spotted like a game of whack-a-mole. That I think accelerationism is the answer. I think just sending it to its ultimately untimely demise, because everything else the conservatives are putting up on the table is a lot of just kicking the can down the road. You go to Social Security, you go to the national debt. I mean, so much of it. And at this point, it's like, let's deal with it now, because I don't want to have to think about the fact that I gave some extreme burden to my daughters 40 years down the road because I was unwilling to deal with it right now. And I think that's my mindset right now too. So I'm right there with you, but we'll get a lot of flack for being overreactional. You'll get the Bapsphere guys coming out and saying, these guys are just, they're emotional. They don't know how to play ball right. You get the John Goyles who come out and do this stuff too. And so, and let's speak on that a little bit, actually, kind of a side point. I am not that familiar with Captive Dreamer or Siegfried Moll or whatever that guy's name is. Explain to me who this guy is and how he fits into this whole picture.
Okay. I mean, he's obviously a part of the Bapsphere. I'm not a total expert on him either. I just know that he's a Canadian with a really large forehead who's like retarded. He posts coal on the timeline all day. and just he lies and slanders people. That's
Yeah.
like really the gist of it. But he is a great example, or that account is a great example of this issue that we are seeing on the right wing when it comes to like paid shills or just, Jannies, people who aren't even paid. They're just Jannies for these factions on the right wing that are like literally CIA or they're foreign assets. And, they always throw these accusations at Nick, at the Groypers, of being a Fed, of being CIA, or being paid by Qatar or whatever.
Yeah, that one's
and it's
ridiculous.
like, okay, the faction that you're shilling for is literally that. Is literally the government. And the whole idea of MAGA was that we're going to drain the swamp. In 2016, people put their trust in Donald Trump to drain the swamp, to get rid of the neocons, to get rid of all these people that did not care about the American people. And now it's just been flipped into the total opposite. Now you got to support the swamp, or else you're, paid for by Qatari agents and you're actually the CIA Fed.
Right.
It's retarded gaslighting. And of course, we all know who's at, the center of. Can we say it on YouTube? Can we say the word on YouTube?
Yeah.
Jews? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
We all know it's Jews. So
That's
it's
funny.
like,
but that's a reality of
it's
it.
completely ridiculous. And there's so many accounts like that too. Like the rabbit hole goes super deep. Like Nick talks about this on the show all the time, whether it's going, the Sovereign House stuff, the Yarvin stuff, whatever it is, it's all that same sphere. And all it amounts to is you are shilling for the deep state. You are shilling for Jews that have taken over the country.
Right.
That's what it amounts to. And a lot of them are paid. I don't know off the top of my head if he's specifically paid, but these people are paid. Like Peter Thiel shells out a lot of money to like Sovereign House, right?
Right.
It's all meant to bring people back into the fold. And again, that's another reason why I went kind of accelerationist in the campaign. It's like, we gotta break out of that system again. And if that means that we're going like super Richard Spencer radical, I'm all for it, because I'm not going to be a shill, paid or not paid, never shilling for the deep state.
Right.
So yeah,
and
that guy sucks.
And all it takes is like, he definitely does suck. I try a lot to like, I judge people by their accusers. And so I do like a lot of lurking, so I've before I launched like where I've been at in YouTube, I've spent a lot of like the last year and a half for the better part trying to understand and play catch up, and like get to know who are these factions, who are these guys, because early on I did follow some of those guys in the bat sphere and I was like, okay, I agree with this. And then you see it compared with some of their previous takes. And it's so easy to realize they actually don't have values. It's ultimately like whatever is ultimately the most politically expedient for what they're trying to accomplish is what will come out of their mouths. And you can kind of track this over and over again. And it's happening right now with the JD Vance stuff. A lot of these guys make their bread and butter by telling men to like, go get tan, go get jacked, and like can have this kind of, holistic, but they're pushing for JD Vance, who's got an Indian wife with Indian children, who is the chud, right? He's got a weird haircut. His head shape is just odd. And he's pretty chubby. He's out of shape. He doesn't match any of the aesthetics that they push for. And I think that's again another element that obfuscates to the average person when they're trying to understand. Like the average person going from Tim Pool to like freebasing X, it's almost too much for them. They can't do it. Because
Absolutely,
if you listen to
yeah.
Tim Pool, you would think that Donald Trump is this magical superhero and everything's going okay and we're getting everything we voted for. And that's just simply not the case. And it's sad that people are, for one, misled, but also just brutally discussing that you have so many of these grifters in place to carry water for all of these things. And, I might be Phil Labonte's number one hater. I can't stand that guy.
He sucks too. Yeah, he does suck.
He's miserable. But I guess one thing I did miss, I wanted to ask you about too. Where does Kanye West fit in all this?
Well, that was like one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
you know, when Yay 24 happened, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that you're like a post October 7th groiper,
Yeah.
because the Yay 24, that was like the first big boom in like groiper. Like if you want to say the like groiper war 1, that was like when a bunch of like new people came in. The next big iteration, it was like Yay 24.
Right.
So I think of people that came in during Yay 24 as like new groipers. And then like you tell me like, oh, I came in post October 7th. I'm like, damn. Yeah, that was an awesome time. So my personal experience with it was pretty cool. I wasn't like out there with Ye or anything, but I was actually at Amren. I was at Amren with Jared Taylor and Laura Loomer and Dalton Clodfelter.
Interesting.
And you know, Nick on Snapchat, he snapped us, and it was just a picture of him and Ye, and like it had like not been announced or anything. And Dalton and I, we go to like the balcony outside of Amran, and we're just like, yo, it's happening. This is so fucking cool.
Bigger than real life.
And then like the next day or like 2 days later, he came out with it, and the infamous video of him walking at Yeezy HQ with the Dove sweater on.
Yeah.
That came out and everything. But that was such a cool era, because that broke politics. Like everything that they did not want to happen happened. Whether it's like, Ye, the biggest rock star, he's still like the biggest rock star out there. Everybody knows who Ye is. Everybody knows who Kanye West is going to come out against Jewish power, and he's going to say, we're going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people.
Yeah, right.
And he's doing these interviews with the paparazzi, just like all these red pills.
Tweet storms.
He goes on Alex Jones with the mask. He's saying that he loves Hitler. He's reading Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
And, you know, just even putting aside all of the obviously cool things that he said in public that changed people's perspectives on politics, that pushed the Overton window so far, just blew it right up, blew it wide open.
Yeah.
Even putting that stuff aside, the ideas that he had were just cool. They were so aesthetic. And, you know, Nick's talked about on the show about how, like, you know, they'd be in a meeting and Ye would be talking about how, like, yeah, for the campaign, it has to be like all black and militaristic, and it's gonna be like in warehouses. And he's doing the whole mask thing with like the cool American flag puffer jacket.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the perfect example of how to make a point in politics, how to cause a scene in a productive way that gets people thinking. And you know, he has that one quote. What is it verbatim? It's something like, I'm always right. I might just not be right now. I'm pretty sure that's the quote verbatim.
Interesting.
It goes around on TikTok all the time. And it's like, yeah, that was like a great example of it, because then post October 7th, when people start to hate Israel, when they start to realize that Israel is doing a genocide, they're like, yeah, it was right. There's something going on there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it takes a lot of balls, and it takes a lot of passion and courage for somebody who has reached the upper echelon of human society to say, I'm going to throw this all away to tell the truth. And that is something that I think is so special. It takes a very special human being to be able to shoulder that weight and do that. And maybe a little bit crazy too, very eccentric. You know, you got to be,
it's part of
that's insane. That has to be totally part of it. And when that stuff was going down, part of what even made it cooler too, in my opinion, was how like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens and TPUSA, they had been trying to groom him. They were trying to pull him into the system and use him as like one of these guys that we just talked about, you know, one of these shills.
Yep.
And Charlie Kirk's trying to get him to be a part of TPUSA and talk about how he's anti-abortion. And it's like, yeah, obviously being pro-life is like important. I'm pro-life. I believe in that. But we got to talk about the Jews, okay? We got to like talk about the the elephants in the room here. And I think it's so cool that Ye, the number one rock star in the world, he was just like us. He was just like another groiper in that moment where it's like, F TPUSA, F the system.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it. And that was so powerful. And the ripple effects of that are gonna go on for decades, if not 100 years. So very powerful cultural moments.
Well, especially because you have someone like that saying it, it gives so much more power to everyone else to go, I'm going to say it too. Kanye said it, I'm saying it. You know, and people who might even be know what's going on are going to say it too. And it's awesome to have that. You know, and I watched a little bit of your, because I wanted to see what your last appearance on YouTube was. And I think it was a year ago and some change with Greg Wycliffe, I think on Controlled Opposition.
Yes.
I tried to do some digging. Okay. Yeah. And it sounded a lot like, Kanye was pretty prevalent then because that would have been right around at the beginning of 2024, I think, was when, or the late 2024. And as I was thinking about it, I do think that moment where he walked off of Tim Pool was the moment I looked up, who's Nick Fuentes? I think that was the moment. So you're spot on in the fact that it had reverberations, right? Just like the power that they had. And I think even then, you know, I think a lot of people, when that debate was scheduled, they were like, oh, there's no way this is happening. You know, these guys aren't allowed on YouTube, and let alone the beanie guy is scared shitless if anybody says anything halfway, you know, close to the line. And you're spot on with that, right? Very, very just generational kind of power there. You don't see it very often, and maybe even more so than generational. Maybe it's like centennial. Maybe it goes beyond that when there's a billionaire and like the richest, because I think he was the richest black man in America, threw it all away because he wanted to say something he thought was real. And like that is based, you know, that is like the sacrifice we talk about, living for something greater than just like what you can accumulate, you know, on your own. And so shout out to them for that. It's been amazing. And so, you know, moving on from there, I guess the next question would be then, who are the allies? You know, we kind of talk about opposition. Kanye's like the big top dog ally. We don't have much in terms of strong financial backing, but, you know, Andrew Torba seems to be like the common top name people bring up when they're talking about, you know, financiers or someone who's got power. So I'm curious, in your opinion, who are the allies? You know, if they're not outright or direct groypers in name, like who are the people we're looking for?
Andrew Torba, like you mean the creator of Gab?
Yeah.
That's I've never heard that. Like people say that he has like money to throw around.
I thought he was pretty well off. I could be wrong about that. I could be completely wrong.
I don't. Yeah. He was a part of like the AF sphere kind of thing, but he spoke at AFPAC 3.
Yeah.
But he ended up taking Thiel money.
Really?
Yeah. He got ganged up with Peter Thiel. I'm like 99% certain. So
interesting.
Yeah. He's not like a financier. He's part of the system now for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, Gab was, you know, we don't really have to drag this on. I was surprised that you brought him up. I haven't heard the name Andrew Torba in like so long.
Yeah.
We used Gab for like a little bit there. When Twitter was really, really bad under Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, 1.0.
But yeah, he hasn't really been around our circles in a long time.
Interesting. Then who would you say then if we were looking for like a financier? Because that seems to be what's holding back a lot of guys. Is like they can't find willing investors to take their studio or whatever their operation is to the next level. So I'm kind of curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a major issue. It always has been for dissident politics. Is getting people to finance stuff, and there isn't really a big name right now that is like, you know, that's going to be our guy. He's based. He gets it. He's willing to, you know, put his reputation on the line or anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of, you know, pretty big private donors. You know, when Nick does the Money Bomb stream, you know, he makes a lot of money. People send Nick super chats, AFF stuff, the group chats, America First Plus. So there's definitely, you know, we got rich people that are interested in supporting the truth. But to like really make powerful, like long strides in politics, you're so right. We're going to need like a billionaire.
Right.
And it might not come in the next decade, maybe it's, somebody watching, maybe it's somebody who's, 25 years old now and they're starting out this tech business and it's going to pop off in the next 10, 20 years.
Right.
That might be the solution to that. In terms of allies, again, there's not too many. If you want to think about like Congress, if you want to think about these various political players, there's a lot of guys that are behind the scenes that are that like America First, that listen to Nick. Groypers are like really everywhere in that sense, whether it's, in the White House or the Capitol, whatever, just in politics generally. But in terms of like outward facing allies, you got Ye. You got other political commentators, that you would see on Twitter, and the Dr. Lupuses, the other Rumble creators, Myron, Andrew Tate, etc.
Yeah.
Aiden Ross, one of my favorites, Aiden Ross over on kick.com. You get these like content creators and political activists that will ally and fight the good fight. But yeah, in terms of like, I mean, like you've probably heard about like the Gosar stuff, right? Were you around for the Paul Gosar debacle or no?
Very familiar, but no.
Okay, so Paul Gosar, he's a congressman out in Arizona, and he spoke at AFPAC 2. That was like the big name at AFPAC 2. Paul Gosar.
Yeah,
I was there, sitting congressman going to AFPAC. Insane. People lost their minds over it. And unfortunately, he just crumbled under the pressure. CNN, Fox News, everybody hit him with everything that they had. And, he went to the white supremacist conference. So he ended up buckling. And that's what happens with a lot of these people. Nick, the other night, he was talking about how around that same time that Gosar was involved, he was talking to Gibbs up in Michigan, who ended up losing the race. But, he had a chance to win. And, how he had talked to Kent and Blake Masters and these other so-called America First congressmen that were trying to win. And all of them are just pussies. They're a part of the system. So it's going to take somebody really special. And maybe they're out there and they just haven't made the move yet. But Ye is really the only like billionaire, like really the only like, guy of that stature.
Right.
That has interacted. It's a very grassroots thing. And the best example of this, I think, is, and I talk about this on stream a lot, so people who are here from my chat, they will have heard me say like this exact line.
Yeah.
But over the years, TPUSA has just gotten continually overthrown by Groypers. And if you want to look back on like 2020, 2021, just after Groyper War, TPUSA, they had like way more people that were involved in campus politics or involved getting internships with congressmen or in DC in general. They were all Charlie Kirk's guys. These are kids being groomed by Charlie Kirk since like they were in high school.
Right.
Now, I'd argue it's that we're winning, that we're over 50%. Like the amount of Groyper TPUSA people is insane. It is crazy.
Right.
And, this has extended into DC. This has extended into the powerful city centers, whether it's LA or New York or Chicago. It's extended into the top universities and the top schools.
Exactly.
So I think that that's where our strength is the fact that Nick has inspired so many people, so many Groypers to go out and gain their motion and get involved, that now the tentacles are just everywhere. And, there's all these different scenes. There's the LA scene, there's the New York scene, and people are making moves. And, they're hiding their power level. They're climbing the ranks.
Right.
And, I often have to remind myself, and, in my chatters and stuff too, it's like, we got to always think about how young this movement really is.
Yeah.
Like Nick's been doing this for going on 8 years now. And Obviously in the beginning it was more like blood sports and debate stuff, and Nick was doing a show with the green screen. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a fully fledged political movement. It's a very young movement, and these things are going to take years, maybe decades,
Right.
to really see the fruits of the labor. Um,
Because yeah, he's basically
but I think that that's the
taking.
appropriate avenue to take. You know, these things don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you know, a billionaire could come out tomorrow and be like, I'm going to give all this money, but you got to do this, and this for me. And it's like, that's not very acceptable, you
Right.
know? So,
Never mind.
it's going to be that slow burn kind of thing. It's that generational struggle that I think that people have to be reminded of.
No, definitely. And you said a bunch of things there, and a lot of them, all ring true. And I think one of the first things, and I'll go one of the recent ones, right? One of the last videos I made, I think it was my last video, I made about the e-girls, because you can see it.
I
on-
saw that. Yeah, I
on
watched
TikTok.
that.
Did you? Yeah. Where all of these girls are now coming out, and they're making these videos to audio from Nick, and I think it was all clipped from Tucker Carlson's that first rant going at Tucker Carlson, which that one was amazing. That was one of the best things I've ever listened to in my life. And when you're seeing it in mass, and so what I did was I clicked on the original sound itself, and I was like, let me just look at all the videos. I want to see all the people who used it. I mean, we're not just talking e-girls. We're talking, of course, a bunch of white dudes, but there's a bunch of black dudes who are doing it. There's even black chicks who are doing it, which I should have done one of the black chicks in the video now that I'm thinking about it. But I was like, I think that when women begin to parrot things that are socially not acceptable, I think you've won. I think you've made it past that
Sure, yeah.
threshold. And now
Yeah, these America First ideas, these are in the mainstream now, and there's no
Right.
putting the cat back in the bag, dude. Like it is, like just seeing from like where it came in 2019 to where it is now, it is a totally different ball game, and like Nick is making crazy moves. So yeah, there's no putting the cat back in the bag. It's out there.
Right. And this is kind of where I think that this recession of censorship might not be this kind of like psyop, where I think ultimately, just preceding this kind of generational moment from Nick was an actual mainstream effort led by people like Crowder and Viva Fry and Tim Pool moving over to Rumble because they were tired of all the extra, flack they're getting from YouTube. And they basically set up a rotation. It was like 10 a.m. to like 4 p.m. and just like every single streamer would go one right after the other. I think it's now, because it is so mainstream, YouTube had to look at it like a business. They go, if we continue to keep getting rid of Nick content, we may have to actually compete with Rumble on a serious level now. And I think they looked at that and they were like, let's not do that. Let's avoid that entirely. And they're like, let's pull it back a little bit. So like Shameless Spurg got nuked right after, of course, I shouted him out in a video. But it's clear that there's still some level they've opened up the gate one next level. I don't think they're all the way open, but we're either at gate 6 or 7 of 8. It's like there's only a couple more left before it's full mainstream, and that's amazing. And that's been one of my biggest digs my whole life growing up is we've never really had free speech in this country. And and it sucks because now we're having to even tell our own guys like, make sure that you speak couth, right? Allude to things, make allegories, don't be explicit. And it's like, it sucks. And that's one crazy thing I thought about too, which is you look at TikTok and these TikTok brained kids, they're all self-censoring themselves. It's like an ingrained practice for people now to like not say certain words, right? Like, especially about anything related to self-harm. We're using all these kind of like words, and it's basically like at a certain point, those words will have the same level of meaning as the original word did. It's just a semantic game of this PC culture. And I think we're at the tail end of it dying. But I'm curious if you think that too, especially with like the Sydney Sweeney ad. What were some of the other ones? All the good gene stuff, the Nazism, if you will. And I do think woke is officially dead. It's a matter of how far right wing can we push it out of this kind of 2012 liberal James Lindsay kind of, utopia kind of world. Because I don't want to live in James Lindsay's world. And I'm curious if you think that woke is officially dead or not.
Yeah, totally dead. We have definitely moved into a new era, so to speak. And even though I'm not a big fan of Trump, he has a lot to do with it. He changed the culture a lot politically. And him winning again, like, if you can say one thing, that was like the nail in the coffin of the woke era.
Yeah.
in like a very normie, like ignorant way, people did vote for Trump because they were anti-woke.
Yeah.
So yeah, that era is totally dead. And that was one of the worst eras ever to live in as like a teenager, as somebody in your young 20s, for one. My issue with like this new era that we're entering, and I don't want to get too like conspiratorial or anything, but I think that the rightward shift that we are seeing, the anti-woke, it is being very successfully controlled. And I think that a lot of these mainstream ideas that we're seeing, whether it is like the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad or
Right.
like the Sabrina Carpenter thing, you know, going back to who's like the one girl from the 60s, like the bombshell blonde. I always forget her name. It's
Marilyn
like so
Monroe,
dumb
is
of
that who?
me.
Right? Marilyn Monroe?
Yes, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
I think that we're kind of getting like that vibe back in pop culture.
Okay.
I just don't really see it as that organic. And I think that a lot of these corporations have seen that people are becoming increasingly anti-woke and they're not really messing with the LGBTQIA stuff,
Right.
and they're sick of being nagged, and they're kind of concocting these different narratives, whether it's in Hollywood, on TV, in the marketing business, whatever it is, to kind of play to that anti-woke sentiment. So I don't see it as too organic. But what comes with that is the organic thing. You know, it kind of provides this platform where, yeah, we aren't getting as censored now. So
Yeah.
this organic movement, this organic culture that is off to the side right now, it could flourish in the future.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this thing of like potential almost, where now we have the potential to really make a move. But generally pop culture right now, I think it's very controlled. And you know, I'm really worried about even something like TikTok. I think that TikTok is extremely important for shaping the culture right now.
Yeah.
What all of us are on. Anybody who's under the age of 30, we're on TikTok.
Yeah.
Dude, when I go to the gym, I just got a TikTok scroller off of Amazon. So I'm sitting there, and when I'm doing my cardio, I got my scroller, I prop up my phone, and I'm scrolling through TikToks while I'm working out.
That's crazy.
Like, it's major, and I love it. I'm like borderline addicted. It's a great platform. But they
Yeah.
just hired this like ADL woman, some like Jewish IDF agent, like that was given
course.
to them by the ADL or something. I'm pretty sure it was the ADL. To enforce anti-Semitism policies on the platform. And coming up here in a couple months, you know, it could be sold to a different owner. That was, you know, Trump has been doing the whole TikTok ban thing. He's been handling that. It's about to be sold. And I think that we're going to get a lot of censorship on that platform. I think that the system, that the establishment, they are going to try to put a lid on many topics that influence the organic culture that is kind of festering over off to the side right now, that people are
Exactly.
truly interested in.
Well,
So
I think
we
that's
have this battle ahead of us for sure.
Well, that's a fantastic point, and I think Nick even spoke a little bit to this the other day, where digital culture clearly is like real culture, and it has a strong impact on what we see IRL. I think this is what he said in response actually to Tristan Tate, I believe, because they got in like a weird spiff just a couple of days ago. And I think it is true, you know, and that's why you saw, and for a lot of people who don't even know or following the TikTok ban stuff, if you listen to Tim and anyone else, they'll tell you it's like Chinese influence and all this. But the reality is like you can't even search Nick Fuentes on the platform still. Like even like right now, completely banned, legal name banned. But they went so far as I believe they banned the Palestinian flag emoji. You know, like they were going like all these like lengths.
There was when the Palestinian protests were going like really hard there last summer, the searches were just off the charts. Like it was like a 20-to-1 ratio of people being pro-Palestine to pro-Israel on TikTok. And they ended up banning a bunch of the hashtags that were being used. And you know, they were banning creators for talking about it. Like the censorship, it was there. Now, TikTok, the algorithm, I got to look into the algorithm. I'm so interested as to if you can even find out what it is. I don't know if it's like a public thing or not. I don't know if anybody knows.
Right.
But it's such a unique algorithm because it learns so quickly what you are into. So if you are into Nick, if you are into like a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel stance, people will be getting banned, but you'll still get that content. That content is still fed into your algorithm.
Right.
So it's just like, it's just the platform that has the best algorithm that keeps people tapped into what they truly believe. And I think that shakes out to be a good metric of what, the younger people think, what Gen Z leans toward politically.
Right.
So yeah.
And I think that they, if I remember right, the part of the reason why they said they would just pull out, I think they would, the guy who currently owns it was like, I'll pull this out before I sell it to America because we're not giving up the algorithm. I think that was like the crux of it. They were unwilling to turn over like the proprietary code, or, what makes that algorithm. Because again, that is what makes the app run so well, right? People just get doom scrolling came from TikTok, because it was so good at putting that, that stuff in your, in front of you. And so, with all these things going on, I guess one of the next questions is kind of general too. What are we looking for next? Like, what are some kind of like steps we can take bites of and expect, moving forward, like some immediate strategy, seeing it in the coming months? Because we're kind of in this lull period right now where people are circling their wagons. They're kind of looking at Gavin. They're looking at Vance. They're going, who's going to be around that hill? Or is there somebody who's going to fall out of the sky? And I'm kind of curious what you think we should be doing beyond like, shit posting on X. What other actionable steps do we have?
Everybody needs to get involved in politics in one way or another. And if you are hyper online, like we talked about earlier, I'm hyper online every day.
Yeah.
But I really make it a point in my life to go out into the real world. And, I'm in a very unique position as well with my career and stuff like that, where my life, it is politics. It is like in the Groiper sphere.
Right.
But for like young guys out there, especially if you're in college, it is so easy. People don't understand how easy it is to get into politics. Trust me, there are thousands. There are thousands of Groipers that have just went to their local like college TPUSA meeting, and then now they're involved and they're going to parties and they're maybe getting an internship with somebody and they're going to DC. Like, it is so easy. You just have to go. The next meeting, just go to it. I guarantee you, I would be surprised if you didn't meet other Groipers there. And it's a matter of getting up off your ass and doing it. And it's not like it's hard work. Like, if you believe in the movement, in the cause, then you're going to a social function where you're just going to, and don't like go in guns a-blazing talking about like Jews and like Hitler and like obviously, be like a normal person in front of these like Republican GOP people.
Yeah.
But you will find other Groipers. You will find people that believe in what we believe in. And then you can start to build your career. And maybe, if say you don't even want to work in politics, say you're like a finance guy, okay, go hard in school in finance, get a really good job, become a finance guy, join a firm. Like, people really need to think of what they are doing outside of the internet heading into 28, I think, because that is like where the real battleground is. Obviously we need propaganda online. And we need activists online to share the messaging and, the clippers and, just talking about these issues. But we need like foot soldiers. We need like high quality guys who are hyper focused, who get it, who want to be a part of the solution. And again, it is so easy, dude. From my personal experience, a couple of things here. When I was in school, through my school, I was placed in an internship with the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, which is like equivalent to like the Vice President.
No shit.
And
That's crazy.
I was like right wing, and I was like in Chrystia Freeland. That's her name, Chrystia Freeland. She's still a part of the Liberal government now.
That's
I was
crazy.
like in her office, just like doing, and like, I'm just doing mundane, like whatever intern work, but you're there, you're in politics, you are in the real world, in the machine. And, I was right wing, got an internship with like a liberal when Justin Trudeau was in office.
Yeah.
And that was fun. It was fun kind of being like a spy almost, like I'm going there and I know that like I'm this like red pill guy and they don't know it. That's part of the fun.
I love
And I think that people, yeah. And I think that people
That's funny.
think that it's going to be really boring, but when you are a dissident, it does not have to be boring. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that you will meet like-minded guys. You will start to build up your network. And all of a sudden, it's like you're going to be offered something. If you are like normal and you're young and you don't even have to be that smart, you just have to like be tapped in and like understand what Nick is saying on the show.
Yeah.
Like is not a high bar. You will be like offered stuff. You'll be offered to join different networks. You'll be offered an internship. I guarantee you. So
Interesting.
people, they got to get involved. Just do it. Just go check it out. Start talking with people. And, if you have like a bit of social anxiety or anything, this is another thing. It's like, I'm not the most talkative guy in real life. Like anybody that knows me, I'm kind of like, I'm more of a listener than anything.
Yeah.
Which is like ironic because I talk for 10 hours a day on stream. But, I'm not the guy that like really enjoys, I got to go to the social function. That's usually like my reaction. But you just kind of learn to do it. And it does become fun. And you will start to look forward to it, even if you are more reserved. You just got to get over that hump. And I promise you, once you do that can be your purpose.
That's awesome.
So like you got to get off your ass. We need foot soldiers. We need groypers in the trenches making moves. That is like top tier, super important thing heading into 28.
Yeah, no, agreed. Because we got to start the on-ramping from digital to actually taking it full mainstream. And it's going to require some actual, exactly what you said, foot soldiers, people in the flesh actually in those positions. Instead of hoping that the guy who got paid by Israel 2 weeks ago is going to do what we want him to do. We actually got to be in those spots ourselves. And a couple other things, because I know we're running the last 40 minutes here. And I think one of the other things that I might have missed here, let me just ask you like this. Is it really never e-girls? where are we at?
Of course.
Because that's one element of it, right? You have like the Sarah Stock and the Rachel Wilson and that whole crowd. And that's obviously a competing element. And what I think also too could potentially co-opt the movement, get men to start listening to some of these women. And I also find that to be a bit dangerous too. So I'm kind of curious how you feel about like the Rift TV, Elijah Schaefer, and some of these kind of like just on the edge, adjacent to where everybody else is at.
I like Sarah's solid. I like Sarah.
Okay.
But yeah, the rule is no e-girls for like a reason.
Yeah.
And politics in general needs to be a male-dominated space, especially when you're in dissident right-wing politics, when it's so sensitive. So yeah, no e-girls. You gotta listen to Nick on that. I'm sure there's been like a handful of good ones over like Faith Goldie was a good one. Mentioned her earlier.
Yeah.
Michelle Malkin. I think that Sarah Stock's cool. She's doing a good job. The issue is with a lot of these adjacents, because groyperism or America First has gone more mainstream, they see it as like something that they can attach themselves to.
Right.
And, I think that Elijah's good, for example. I think that Sarah Stock is good. But a lot of these adjacent people that you see on Twitter, like, they are quite literally just grifters.
Yeah.
And it's something to look out for. I think that as you have time and experience in the movement, you will start to build up your radar and be able to tell when somebody is serious about it and actually, wants to help out, or if they're just trying to build up their Twitter account.
Right.
Which is the case for a lot of them. So, um,
Big thank you
yeah,
to
it's
Pinecep.
it's just like you really got to be careful with the adjacent stuff. But there are some good ones out there that are doing good work. You just y- gotta like really pay attention to these different actors. And this is actually one of the Groyper's strengths too. The fact that it is kind of like a decentralized network of young guys that they all watch Nick and they listen to Nick and he's the only like authoritative voice behind the movement. Um, this is one of the major strengths because these people can't come in and they don't really have a say. It's
Right.
like it's Nick's movement. It's whatever he says goes, and he has the ideas. He does all the research. He works hard every single day to bring information to you to try to inspire you.
Right.
Um, so you don't have to listen to these adjacent people. You don't have to support them. If they're doing something cool, then obviously yes. It's good to support people who are doing good activism.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, yeah, no e-girls. I would take that a step further and just be like, any of these great, like, why even waste your time with some of these people? It's not like they're like nobodies with a Twitter account. Like,
Right.
it doesn't even matter,
No, I get that. And I guess it's just more so maybe a prominent element just because we have so many incel-like guys in the movement.
Mhm.
I find it's probably very easy for them to go like, oh yes, great work, Sarah. Like just kind of fall in that.
Yeah.
And you saw a little bit with that Base Blonde X account, but I want to shout out too. Pinecep said, "We love Tyler. Thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it."
W Pinecep.
Yep, gonna have Pinecep on Friday, and we'll have another big announcement with Pinecep stream coming up. So be prepared for that, guys.
Nice.
With that Base Blonde X girl though, that is the exact thing that I see, which is, and I don't know if you're familiar with that because you said you'd been offline the last couple of days, but basically she's like, you need to be nicer about women. I really like your message, Nick, and it's like all this tone policing. It's like, just shut up. I mean, like, you just please shut up. There's a reason we say repeal the 19th. Like, we're not saying it, because it's like, F women. We're saying it because we legitimately mean, like, you guys need to not be in these fields. You don't understand. You're not even equipped with the actual faculties required, for one, to make these decisions, to be leaders. I mean, your bodies are built to be MIA, for periods at a time. And that's what I see. And I think a lot of guys end up falling into that trap where they end up like, they hate women. And it's the same thing with the race thing, right? They fall in that trap where they ultimately start hating people who don't look like them. And that's that, again, that ledge we talked about earlier, where it's like, you can't simultaneously be like, I love God, I love Jesus, I love everybody. And then you go behind closed doors and it's like, I hate women, I hate blacks. And it's like, I understand being frustrated. Trust me, I do. Again, I don't want to be around them either. And because I want to be around my own people and don't want to be around them, doesn't imply that I hate them either, And so like, there's a lot of nuance there. And obviously people get switched up in that. But before we go to topical news, I'm curious, I want to know a bit more about you. Favorite video game, favorite movie, like who is Tyler? Explain a bit more about yourself.
Okay. Favorite video game? People get on my ass with this all the time. It's COD. I love COD.
Really?
And I like competitive COD. So like in high school, I would play like MLG, like game battles, like Call of Duty Ghosts with like my friends.
Okay.
And on PlayStation, my team was like top 10 on PlayStation for like duos. Like we would play like 9 hours a night. It was insane. But I've always been a gamer. Like my parents, growing up, they allowed me to play like a lot of like violent video games and stuff. I
GTA.
was like the friend that people would come over to my place to play Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I was 5 years old. I had Grand Theft Auto 3. Like driving around in Grand Theft Auto 3.
That's awesome.
My parents got me Call of Duty 2, Big Red One, when I was like, I've been playing COD like every year since I was like a little kid.
Dang. Okay.
So COD is still my favorite. I know it's super normie, but I'm pretty good at it, and I love it. It's fun to hop on and just like own some noobs, and it's a good time.
That's funny.
In terms of movies, favorite movie. I like I get a lot of flack for my opinions. If you like watch my streams, people are always upset about me about my taste in art and media.
That's funny.
I go with like Uncut Gems. It's like an A24 movie with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, with Kevin
He plays like a
Garnett.
serious role in it.
Yeah.
I love movies that invoke an anxious feeling in you. Like I don't really care about the action. I like thriller movies that's
Okay.
not like horror, but it's like you feel anxious the entire time.
Yep.
And Uncut Gems is a really, really good job at that. Eddington recently, if you saw Eddington, loved Eddington with Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix. That's another movie just for 3 hours of anxiety and storytelling. That one was really, really good. And then I'm a big like music guy. I love music.
Yeah.
I have the Indie Groiper Mega Mix, and I make it I got to update it for this upcoming season. So pay attention to my Spotify.
Word.
But I'm really big into like indie music. I go to a lot of concerts. So my favorite artists are like Clairo, big Clairo fan, Men I Trust, Magdalena Bay.
Okay, I was going to ask. I'm getting chats that is asking me to ask you about Clairo.
Yeah, I'm one of the biggest Clairo stands out there, dude. I was again day one Clairo stan. When she came out with Pretty Girl, I was ground floor. I saw her at a very small venue in Toronto on like her first like EP tour, and I was working at Urban Outfitters, and I'll tell the Clairo story for chat here. I was already a fan. She was like a small artist. She was opening up for this other artist named Khalid, and she came into Urban Outfitters, and I was the cashier. And I was coming up from like the break room, and I look over to the shoe section, and there's like Clairo and her guitar player, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Clairo. So I go back to the cash, and I tell my buddy, I'm like, okay, Clairo is here. She's shopping. Take extra time with your customer so that she will come to me and I get to cash out Clairo, right?
That's awesome.
So she like comes up to the counter, like $3,000 worth, like just massive pile of clothes and shoes and whatever. And I'm just like, oh, how's your day, whatever. And I'm just like, oh, like, are you excited for your show tonight? And she's like, you know who I am? I'm like, yes, I know, you're Clairo. So, we just had to pop it up a little bit. Very cool. And yeah, she's been like my favorite artist forever at this point.
Interesting.
I was just at Lollapalooza like a couple weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. That was a great time. So saw her there, saw the Marias. I met a couple of the band members from the Marias just after Lolla. That was fun. Really, really good lineup this year. So yeah, I'm big into music. I like my indie music. I like my alt.
Yeah, no, we're kind of on the opposite ends there. I get flack for my opinions on music, actually, same as you, but it's the complete opposite. Because like I'm a silence guy. I'm very weird.
Okay.
Like I hate listening to music for the most part. Like if I hear music, I go rush to turn it off because I'm just like a silence guy. But you would, and I'll get to that one check. Someone wants to be asking another question. But one thing that was a major element that just reminded me, you had talked about how people would come over to your parents or your place, when you were younger, because your parents were like, they didn't care, play GTA. So all the kids want to come and hang out. And one of the things I actually picked up on from one of the Hate Watch articles about you was that your parents have actually been very supportive of you, like from the beginning.
Yes.
And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm curious then, I would imagine the majority of kids and men and young men aren't in that position. Their parents would actually like send them to therapy if they did the things that you did, right? And so I'm curious, what would you say to somebody who feels like their parents are the reason why they can't blossom or move forward with what they would like to do?
Yeah, I think that for most people, you really just kind of got to separate it. I think that I'm in a very unique position where my parents were very supportive, and they were never really political either growing up. Like My parents never were really conservative or liberal. Like they would just did not care about that kind of thing. And when COVID happened, that's kind of when they started to pay attention too. And I was a little bit ahead of them, so I would tell them about stuff and whatever. And they've been supportive ever since. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, they watch Nick. They're groypers.
Awesome.
So I think that I'm in a very unique position in that sense. For most people, it's like I think that you should just keep your relationship with your parents separate from your politics, and tell them the truth. If it comes up at dinner or whatever, but if they're not really that accepting of it, just don't push it. I think that it's not needed to red pill the older generations. They have had years and years of, Fox News calcifying their brains. And for the most part, they are just like not even able to get it.
Right.
And I don't think that it's worth blowing up your family over political differences like that.
Yeah.
So, if you're not in the same position, if your parents aren't really that open to it, just don't talk about it with them. You have your guys online, you got your group chats. Hopefully in real life, you have a network of guys that share your same values and your ideology. Don't lose your parents or anything over that kind of thing.
That's actually great advice, because I've, parallels, because I was very similar to you. My parents are the ones that are writing letters into the school that says like, I'm doing it because I can, and like counting it to the principal. It's like, so my parents have always been in that. So I also didn't have any worries. They were a bit more religious, maybe a bit more strict on like violence and stuff. But, in terms of like right-wing politics, they've always kind of been my inspiration. My dad was even a part of like the early, the Tea Party movement that happened right after Obama's first era. That was a flash in the pan and instantly disappeared. And so that's great advice. I'm glad that you had said that. And I'm curious, to move to topical, and sorry for all these hard tangents. I want to cover all this because there's a lot here. In terms of topical news, there's been quite a few kind of bigger stories in the last month or so. And obviously we talked a little bit about Gavin Newsom and JD Vance. But I think another one is this clearly growing idea that we may go to war with Ukraine. We may have U.S. boots on the ground. And I think the report that came out verbatim was along the lines of Trump said he hasn't officially ruled out U.S. boots on the ground. And so I'm curious on that end, is there a point where Trump can actually go so far that not only does he lose every ounce of momentum, but he does ultimately turn his entire base against him? And are we on that path right now?
In general, I think yes. I think that we are on the path of Trump losing a lot of his original base. In terms of like boots on the ground in Ukraine, I think that is, I think it's a strategy coming from Trump. There was some Trump leaked audio from the other day, just after his meeting with Putin. And he was talking about how like, yeah, and I told him that we're going to bomb Moscow and like all this shit. I'm just like, I feel like it's just kind of typical art of the deal stuff that he does, where he's willing to make these threats to other world leaders, but will never act on it.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the Iran stuff, I think that there's a good possibility that he would put boots on the ground in the Middle East. But I don't think that he is even willing to go toe to toe with Putin in that way. And the fact that he would even say something like that, not realizing or fully understanding the repercussions that has on his base, I think it just kind of goes to show how cooked he is. Like that was one of the main campaign promises. He was going to end the wars day one.
Yeah.
And now here we are. What is it? 6 months, 7 months in? We're almost in September.
Exactly.
And it's like, bro is just reneged on everything. So
right. All we've gotten, I think,
I
is
just
no men and women sports, and even California said "F you," doing it anyway.
There's been like one dub, and that is him stopping the border crossings. That's a W. I think that we can give him that, but it's definitely not enough. And all the other promises, like the Ukraine stuff, it shows how weak he is now. I think Susie Wiles and all the people around him, they've just totally taken him over, and it's very disappointing.
And well, I guess the reason why I was a bit more piqued by it wasn't when I saw the initial report. It was when I saw, I believe it was earlier today, he made the comments of, I hope I get into heaven. You know, like, I hope I can get into heaven, something along the lines of like, you know, I can really save a lot of people. And that made me think like, you know, it's rare when you see Trump, you know, say short things like that, especially like along those lines. Made me wonder, was there a certain level of extra seriousness that like stemming from the failed negotiations with Putin that he knows ultimately like maybe our hands are tied and that Putin's about to launch an attack and we're just going to stay out of it. Maybe it was like along those lines. And that's why I'm kind of curious, because I think, you know, all it's going to take is one of those going off to ignite real kind of third world war, you know, tensions in the rest of the world. And so I guess I'm kind of, you know, what's your scare level of World War III right now? And how far out do you think it possibly is?
I think that looking back from the future, I think that we're going to say that we are in World War III right now. Okay. I just think it's very different. I don't think that you can really compare it to 1 or 2 in the sense that it's like a kinetic, like very short range kind of war. Right. I think that we're in a massive like technology race right now with AI and weapons and space weapons with Elon Musk and drones and Palantir. It's like there's so much shit going on. We have to be in World War III right now.
Right.
It's everything is changing way too rapidly. The conflicts in different regions around the world. You know, obviously it isn't like US, you know, troops are being sent overseas or anything in a major capacity. But we are really ramping up to something like that. And, you know, just to, I guess, kind of sidetrack a little bit, but still kind of on the same point.
Yeah.
I look at like the war footage from Ukraine and Russia, and I see how they're just like using drones. Right. And like Iran is launching drone swarms at Tel Aviv. And I'm like, okay, that's what World War III is going to be. I don't really know how much, you know, man on the ground infantry soldier influence is going to have. I think it's going to be a lot of technology. And I think that drone in like 10 years, probably max, drones are going to play such a large role in our lives, especially in warfare, that we're just entering unprecedented territory. And it's really freaky to think about, you know, how like police could integrate drones, whether it's, you know, with weapons or just spying on you, whatever it is. They already deploy them at protests. You know, if you're not wearing a mask, like you're cooked, a drone has captured your face if you're at a Palestine protest, for example. Yeah. And the fact that it is advancing so rapidly, I just think it's complete unprecedented territory, and we're not going to be able to stop it until it's too late. I think probably within our lifetime, we'll see some like major battle, some kind of like real US versus somebody, cyber warfare, advanced warfare scenario. But as of right now, I think that it's more so in the like early stages. We are ramping up to that point.
Yeah, no, and I think you're spot on. You know, that analysis, you know, pretty, you know, parallel to I think where most people are at, especially in the Groyper camp, is when you look at like obviously any other period of history, it doesn't start with like the first battle. And they're like, well, the war started here. It started with like obviously events that led to the tensions rising in the first place. And we're well past that point now. And maybe it is just a bit of a lag, like you had said, because it's no longer kinetic. It's no longer short range. Technology is changing. Information is changing. And especially too, like on industrial controls, like there's already the thought that, especially in terms of like the weather that we've been seeing, a lot of like the cloud seeding, that there's already other forms of it happening right now in terms of like, you know, explosions at chemical processing plants, East Palestine, right? That's like a couple hours away from me. All these kind of like ridiculous things going on that it probably already is fully in effect, is just not being told. And why would they have a reason to tell you it's happening anyways? People would just panic and it causes more chaos and would hasten that end anyways, you know, once people start freaking out about it.
The espionage too is something that freaks me out. Whether, you know, when it comes to like the pagers,
Yeah.
blew up all the
15-year plan.
Hezbollah pagers. It freaks me out so much because it's like, you know, I think of myself, obviously I'm not like a high profile, like dissident or anything. Like I've been around for a while and stuff, but you know, I'm not on like the Palantir kill. I'm not in the top 10 of the Palantir kill list or anything.
Right.
But it's like the fact that like Pegasus exists, that like the government can like, and like you won't even know, like your phone could just be compromised and they can see everything that you're doing and you're just like fucked. Like
Right.
that's really freaky. The idea that drones can just be spying on you from anywhere, really freaky. The fact that Israel is so embedded within our government and has access to anything that they could possibly imagine, and that, you know, they can blow up your Tesla or whatever at any time that they wanted to.
Right.
That's really freaky. So we're just entering this uncharted territory where it's like, you know, looking back, I think that we're going to be like, yep, it's started here around 2024, 2025. And it's changed like human life forever. It's changed
Right.
our time on this planet forever. There's no going back once you integrate these technological advances. Like you're just completely owned. Government owns your ass. They can do anything that they want with you.
Right.
And I think that it's we're a little bit cooked. So
I
it's
know.
freaky.
And it's hard not to be blackpilled. And I think for a lot of guys
Mhm.
who don't follow the specifics but kind of get the generals, they're all super blackpilled as well too. And on that, you know, on the pager thing specifically, I think what pissed me off the most about that was, for one, you hear it from Tim or anyone from the Daily Wire, it's like, wow, successful operation. But then I looked into it and it's like, you know, for the last, it was like 10 or 15 years they worked on this plan. And it's like that, any other group doing such
Long
a thing,
time.
you would say like that was an act of terror. Like they planned, you know, it's like a long form planning, you know, terror attack. Like that's, and our government celebrated it. And then some of the follow-up stories I see is like one of these guys' daughter was the one who picked up the pager. And as she's walking it over to her dad, it goes off. She's gone. And they weren't reporting all the civilian casualties that was happening. They were like, it was small, you know, small imprint. And it's like, even after 15-year plan, you still killed civilians. Like, how about you stop? You know, like, how about we just stop this entirely? But I guess I'll move to the bigger question. And I think it's the one that we're going to have to be asking continually for the next couple of years. On that surveillance system with Peter Thiel, with AI systems, I'm at the point where I know, I'm out 99% for a fact, JD Vance is going to be the coupling of Palantir to governmental systems in the United States. Like to me, he signifies that. And I think, how do you even walk that back? Right? If JD Vance gets in and gives four good years to Palantir to do whatever they want and run rampant in the system, put controls on, you know, traffic, put controls on information systems, that would probably be like, we're actually cooked now. Like, how do you walk that back? And so I'm curious on that end, how far would you go to say never Vance?
Oh, you have to go all the way. Yeah, it can never be Vance. Obviously, you know, Nick talks about this a lot on the show, and you know, people, they do not understand like how serious it is. Even just like the other day, there's been that picture of Newsom and Vance in high school going around.
Yeah.
And you're getting these like MAGA shows being like, oh, well, Vance is just the guy that you would play Halo and eat pizza with. Not that bad. It's like, are you guys like totally retarded? Like this guy is like literally going to throw you in jail if you dissent against like the deep state, against the swamp, against Israel. Like it's really terrifying stuff how out to lunch the average MAGA onlooker is. And it really doesn't take that much research to figure out like who Vance is, and the fact that he's changed his name 3 times, and the stuff in his book and his connection to Thiel, and how he's been groomed since you know, he was really in the army to become president.
Yep.
And again, you don't even have to go back that far. Like, just look at the connections now. Look at the connections to the CIA. Palantir was funded by the CIA for the first 7 years of its existence through In-Q-Tel. Like, there's so many of these points, and you can really just pick one and be like, okay, yeah, that's like enough for me. The fact that Vance, he's already the vice president in like 2 years in politics.
Yeah.
Like he got into politics officially in like what 23 after he won. It's like it's literally like 2 years.
When did he win the Senate?
Yeah.
Is that 20?
I think that he started in 23.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's literally been like 2 years and he's vice president. And people just are thinking that's normal. It's crazy to me that like just how much they put on the blinders.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's never Vance all the way. And just like I thought that people should hope for Kamala to be president, I think that people should hope for Newsom or even better AOC. I think that AOC should be president over Vance. We'll go there.
You think she'll run?
I would unironically like to see her run.
I think she'd outperform Gavin.
Yeah, the big issue with her would be trying to get centrist. Like she is very progressive. So I think that even she understands that she has to revamp her image a little bit at least to be able to be in that position. But in terms of like charisma, she's the most charismatic option they have. It wouldn't surprise me if they put her up to it. And that would be maximum political chaos. That's the most interesting option. So I'm kind of all for it.
Right. And maybe she will. Maybe she'll exit after like the first primary bout just to kind of like get the water ready for the next count go around. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a crazy ride because we basically already know who it's going to be the two contenders. The only kind of X factor, I guess, is Ron DeSantis. I'm curious what he's going to do. Ultimately, is he going to enter the race and get humiliated one more time? Because I don't even think he'd match up to Vance at this point either. I think Vance has clearly gone well above his head. And and only
now have you seen the Bannon stuff?
Didn't he file to run? He filed to run for president.
So I didn't see. Again, I've been like so offline this past weekend. But he's been saying online, and there's this big article last week, kind of like leaking some of the things that he's been saying to people around the White House about how he's like totally anti-Vance and he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that Vance does not become president.
Oh, that's awesome.
And on his Getter, he still uses Getter for whatever reason. He like retweeted a article about Nick being on fire on a generational run, and he said reality.
That's awesome.
So, if it's if that does actualize, if Bannon 28 becomes a real thing, I think that he's got aura. He has like Alex Jones, like conspiracy aura.
Yeah.
And he was obviously one of the main mega guys back in 2016. He did a lot to help Donald Trump in 2016 back when MAGA stood for something. So I think that could be really interesting. And obviously, if things do shake out and Bannon is totally anti-Vance and he wants to go against the system and kind of run back that 2016 anti-establishment thing, I would love to support him, but it's very early. We don't know for sure, for certain if he's going to go all the way with it. If he does, it's a cool option, I think. I like his aura.
Yeah. So I guess he hasn't officially filed yet, but that's the last thing I saw there from AF Post is that he's reportedly in the early stages. And that makes sense then, because if he doesn't want Vance, he knows no one else right now on the playing field is going to compete with them. So he's going to have to enter the race himself.
Yeah. Like the other option is going to be DeSantis, Rubio. End of list.
That's right. Maybe Hegseth.
Well, maybe I could see him doing that. I could even see somebody like Tucker doing it too.
Man.
But the ones who
right.
I think really only I think like 90% is going to be Vance. Other two options that might have like a sliver of a chance would be DeSantis and Rubio. Nikki Haley will run again. Maybe they'll like really shill hard for her. But I think it's going to be Vance. And like just to have that more radical America First element, even in the race, even if Bannon doesn't win, but can kind of expose Vance and be that radical right-wing figure that reminds the population about what MAGA was supposed to be and what, real rebellion is all about. Even if he doesn't win, I think that's an awesome thing to have. So I'm hoping it happens, because it would be nice to have somebody who at least is much closer to us than what we have right now.
Well, I mean, that begs the question, should Alex Jones run?
Totally. I'm all for that. That'd be sick.
They wouldn't let him, dude. There's no way.
True.
His Tesla would go 180 miles at a brick wall before they would let him, let him be president. And I guess you probably know a bit more about this fear too, because isn't the top Bannon acolyte considered Orrin McIntyre? And he's kind of oppositional a bit to where the Groypers are.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird stuff. I mean, like, Bannon has not liked Nick over the past many years.
Right.
He's been very vocal that he does not like the alt-right kind of figures. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure around the Yay 24 stuff, Bannon, he was going a little bit hard, with like, oh, this is a setup to hurt Trump kind of shit.
Interesting.
But if he's going to turn a page, and if he, did have some kind of epiphany, if he is like, okay, I was kind of fooled. I see that these guys are anti-Vance. I see that they, truly do want the best for America, even if they're a younger generation. I don't really get the jokes or whatever. If he is like honest about that and has turned a page, I think that just opens up so many new possibilities. But yeah, you're totally right. There's some weird characters around Bannon. And he hasn't really been the most supportive either in the past. So it's yet to be seen, but it's just an interesting option.
It's curious too, because he seemed like, especially with the Epstein stuff, he seemed like the moment that was starting to hit critical mass, he was very vocal, like against Trump, which I was kind of surprised about. But maybe that he's kind of hit that point now. Maybe he did look into Nick's claims in the last couple of months, and he's like, I was wrong. He's just not said it yet, and he's going to position himself to help against that end, which I hope he does.
Yeah, the other option too is maybe he could have just come to the conclusion on his own. Yeah. He is still tapped in. He's on the outs when it comes to a lot of like the White House politics and stuff. But he's been on the ground floor of MAGA for a very, very long time, since its inception, right? So he still has connects. He knows what's up. And, I'm sure somebody like him, if he actually does care, he saw this subversive faction just come in and just take over.
Right.
And he's probably sitting there like, what the hell is going on? So it wouldn't surprise me if he has just seen this Peter Thiel Vance takeover happen in real time and says, after this, I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious, coming to that conclusion on your own, and also thinking like, at the same time, you have this big element of you're watching this other group harness energy that's America first, and like, but you're not in it. So you probably have this kind of self-reflection of like, am I really unk? Am I old? Am I a boomer? You did have that self-reflection. But we are getting close to the very end here. I've got a couple minutes left. I wanted to say thank you once again for coming on. Appreciate it greatly. It's been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate the time.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was great.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. And I wanted to let you give a chance to shout out anything that you want people, best way they can support you, where to find you. Just let it rip.
So I stream every single weekday on kick.com/Tyler Russell. And the idea behind the show that I do is to be like a news show throughout the day that we cover things actively. So, Nick will go live at night. He'll talk about the top news stories of the day. He talks about America First ideology. We're like kind of on the ground level of that. So like when Tel Aviv was getting bombed, we were watching the live stream of like the bombs coming in and chat's going crazy and
playing
stuff.
Lucas Gage music.
When things happen on Twitter, when, Candace is going at Nick or whatever, we're covering that live.
Yeah.
I say this too, this is one of the best ways to describe it. I think it's like the right wing Hassan Piker stream.
Word, okay.
It's very similar in the way that he does things where, he's on Twitter and he's talking about stuff that's happening live and reacting to stuff.
Yeah.
So I do that every weekday. Exactly. Yes, precisely. So I do that every single weekday, Monday through Friday, starting around 10 a.m. Or at 10 a.m. Central. I also have a Twitter. I get banned all the time, but my most recent one is at FutureNatHQ, FutureNatHQ.
Perfect.
I've literally been banned over 109 times, and I'm running out of ats. Like I couldn't put my name in my ats, not because my name is banned, because I've done so many iterations of my name that I can't think of another iteration.
That's funny.
So
use too many of them, we're all banned.
Yeah, so that's the Twitter account right now. I got Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I post more like personal stuff on Instagram. Like, you know, if I'm out on the weekend, I'll post something that's just at Tyler L. Russell, 2 S's, 2 L's. And yeah, that's pretty much where to find me.
Perfect. The Kick and the X account should both be listed in the description of the video for any of you guys who want to make sure you go follow him there as well. And I guess I'll go ahead and wrap that up. Obviously, smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to both of us if you've not already as well. Find us on X and be prepared for the coming up days. Tomorrow we have Mainstream Dissident. Thursday I have Jeff Younger, and then Friday will be Pine Sap. So cap this week off and keep going crazy. Next week we have Michael Spangler, and we get a few more people on that list as well too. But thank you once again. Appreciate it very much, brother.
Thank you. It was great. It was a great convo.
Perfect. And maybe we can do this again sometime soon. I know you're super busy. I don't want to impede on you too much, but
no, I'm totally down. It was great. Yeah, I'm totally down to do another collab soon.
Perfect. You have to put a good word in for Beardson for me, because I plan on reaching out to him soon as well too.
Sounds good. Goes. Okay. Will do.
But thank you guys very much. It goes without saying, Christ is king. Deport Kash Patel, put women back in the kitchen, and we got to save this country one step at a time. You guys have a good rest of your night. Thank you very much for being here.
What's good, everybody? This is Atlas Thug.
That was awesome.